In May 2026, an expedition cruise ship called the MV Hantavirus was navigating the swells of the South Atlantic when a sudden medical emergency brought the voyage to a halt. A severe respiratory illness began sweeping through the passengers and crew. Emergency evacuations were triggered, but the situation rapidly deteriorated. From an initial cluster of 7 cases, 3 people died. The official diagnosis identified Hantavirus, a pathogen traditionally tied to rural landlocked environments, making its appearance on an ocean vessel a significant outlier for investigators. The sanitized steel corridors of a ship are the last place we expect to find this pathogen. Its historical hunting ground has always been quiet, rural spaces, a deserted log cabin, an empty barn, or a forgotten cellar. This placement forced an immediate investigation. Authorities had to determine if the virus had evolved to survive in maritime conditions, or if there was a gap in our understanding of how it travels. The events on the MV Hantavirus proved that the accepted rules of this virus were incomplete, forcing researchers to reevaluate a threat they previously thought to be entirely predictable. To understand the anomaly at sea, we have to look at the virus's biological baseline. Hantavirus is carried almost exclusively by rodents, like the deer mouse, which act as primary hosts without ever getting sick themselves. These animals continuously deposit the virus into their environment, shedding it in their urine, saliva, and droppings as they forage and nest. The danger begins when those droppings are left undisturbed to dry. The virus survives this process, becoming aerosolized and lifting off the ground as an invisible, highly concentrated dust. Human infection requires no physical contact with an animal. A person simply walks into a poorly ventilated space and draws a single breath of that contaminated air. The pathogen requires no bites or scratches. It lies entirely dormant, relying passively on a host to enter an enclosed room and disturb the dust. This chart and map of the Americas show exactly how severe the virus can be. Here, the pathogen manifests as Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a new world variant carrying a fatality rate of up to 38%. Once inside the respiratory tract, the virus attacks the capillaries. The lungs rapidly flood with fluid and begin to stiffen, mechanically shutting down the body's ability to transfer oxygen to the blood. By contrast, this map of Europe and Asia highlights the Old World strains, which cause hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. While the fatality rate drops to roughly 1%, this manifestation bypasses the lungs entirely, attacking the kidneys to cause severe internal bleeding. Neither of these standard geographic profiles explained how the virus managed to tear through the passengers of the MV Hantavirus. To solve the mystery, epidemiologists tested the viral samples from the ship against known data. The sequencing results pointed to the high altitudes of South America. The passengers were infected with a highly specific variant known as the Andes virus. This strain possesses a trait unseen in any other hantavirus variant. It is the only type documented to spread from person to person through close contact with bodily fluids. The outbreak occurred because a single passenger had carried the Andes strain on board, where the ship's enclosed spaces facilitated a rare form of person-to-person transmission. Discovering the mechanism of the outbreak offered an explanation, but it did not provide a solution. To this day, there is no specific cure and no vaccine for any strain of hantavirus. Treatment relies entirely on intense supportive care. Patients often require immediate admission to an ICU, where intubation and mechanical life support are used to sustain their organs while the immune system mounts a defense. Developing pharmaceutical defenses requires studying the live pathogen. Researchers analyze the virus inside isolated, maximum security biocontainment labs, searching for a biological vulnerability. Because medicine can only offer mechanical support, an infected person is essentially left to fight a solitary biological war, one that the human body frequently loses. Without a medical safety net, survival depends entirely on behavior. The only effective defense is absolute prevention, which means strictly breaking the chain of contact between human spaces and rodent populations. When people do encounter an infestation, they often make a fatal error. Dry sweeping or vacuuming droppings is highly dangerous, as it actively launches the dormant virus directly into the breathing zone. The correct protocol requires patience. You must ventilate the space, soak the contaminated area thoroughly with a bleach solution, wait for the chemicals to neutralize the pathogen, and clean up only while wearing protective gear. Despite the severity of the illness, the overall risk remains low. Between 1993 and 2023, the United States recorded fewer than 900 total cases. Hantavirus remains a resident of the wilderness. It is a hazard that demands respect and constant vigilance to keep its spread confined to the dust of neglected spaces.